Because, for example, in Surah Al-Imran, when Allah is talking to Moses, it says in Surah Al-Imran, I think it's Surah Al-Imran, it might be Surah 18, but double check, that Allah, as He spoke to Moses, Allah was in the bush. Allah was in the bush. So if you want to say that meant something else, well, you're going to have to argue with the Quran on that one. It seems to be pretty clear that Allah can emanate His voice from a physical place. He can be in a physical place in a sense. In the same way, I don't believe that God coming to this earth limits His omnipotence. It's not a limitation of His omnipotence. Jesus has taken on flesh. God the Father is still everywhere. God, Jesus, the Son, is here on this earth. It's a limitation in that sense, but it's not a limitation of His nature. He is both the divine and human nature. That's the argument.
Muslims see the Trinity as polytheism, and that's the unforgivable sin in Islam. Because
there's one God.
There's only one God. And if you believe that anyone other than Allah is God, you've committed the unforgivable sin. And so the idea that the Trinity is a viable concept of monotheism, Christians had a really hard time explaining how the Trinity was monotheistic, but I began to realize not only can that be explained, but ultimately I realized the only explanation for love, and I wish we had more time to talk about this, but the only explanation for love to be a real objective thing can come if God is triune. So if you have one God who exists as three persons, three separate persons that have always loved each other, that means love is eternal. Love has existed as long as God has existed, and so it's objectively real. If you don't have a triune God, then you have love that is only subjective. It was only something that became real when the world was created.
Why is Jesus saying that I can of my own self do nothing when He's actually God Himself?
Exactly. Great question. The argument here is that the Jews are saying that you have a demon, that you are not working with God, you're working against God. And Jesus' response is here, look, if I can of my own will do nothing, except through the will of the Father. In other words, He doesn't have a separate will from the Father. Insofar as what He wants to see accomplished, what He wants to see done, He's not standing against His Father's will. So the point He's trying to make is, no, I'm not the devil. I'm not anti-God. I proclaim God. I do His works. I do these healings. I'm not against Him. I'm with Him. That's the point He's making. And we can read further into that and say, oh, He's not God. But if you do that, you're ignoring the context. You have to let the context speak. And where the context is clearest, that's where exegesis should be the strongest.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.